Now, it's one thing to read about history in a book. It's quite another to stand next to it and listen to it breathe.
Hardware cloth or screen that collects the little cinders, and it catches them in there theoretically and breaks them up. And then there's a top baffle that breaks up little pieces that get out, and it suppresses them in the stack. So basically, you're supposed to get only dust coming out the stack.
I'm Bob Doty, and I'm the Master Mechanic, Chief Engineer at Golden Spike National Historic Site. And I am in charge of the maintenance of the locomotives, seeing that everything is done right. And then, of course, in the summertime, I run one of them and do some interpretive work up here. As you probably know, I helped build the engines and went to work for O'Connor Engineering Laboratories. I was his first employee on the locomotive project. Now, O'Connor builds pan heads for motion picture and television cameras. And in fact, I guess he's the leading manufacturer today. He's retired at the present time. But at that time, he was building them, and he had gotten this contract to build these two locomotives, and I had heard about it from a mutual friend, and just sort of tongue-in-cheek type of thing. I went down and talked to him, and we hit it off right away. He hired me. And so I went to work for him before he had hired anybody else on the project, and stayed with it to the end. And about halfway through, I thought, boy, you know, that would be a great job. Now here's something that is almost hobby work type of thing, rather than punching a time clock and getting in the cab and working 12 hours a day and long, hard pulls and that type of thing. It would be a lot nicer. And the feel and the whistle and the sound and the engines working. Of course, we don't work very hard up here because we're not pulling anything, but even so, you get the pulse of the exhaust in that engine, and you can just feel that there is power underneath you. So that's one of the things that's really, probably the great thing that's interesting about it is.
Well, lest you think it was all pain and suffering and death, of course not. We had a lot of adventure in building the railroad, we did. Now, I know that when you went to school, you read in McGuffey's Reader that you couldn't go much faster than about 30 miles an hour. You couldn't catch your breath and you'd suffocate immediately. Isn't that so? Well, I can tell you it isn't so at all, because I've had all 119 doing 60 miles an hour, so help me.
I'm going to throw one in there.
I guess I'm a whistle nut. I love to blow whistles. Some people don't like it.
Okay, well, the two greatest misconceptions, Golden Spike misconceptions, is the thought that somebody drove a Golden Spike at Promontory Point, Utah. First of all, Promontory Point is 37 miles south of where we are now. This is Promontory Summit. Nothing ever happened at Promontory Point. Secondly, The Golden Spike, 17.6 karat solid gold, very soft, and can you imagine what would have happened if somebody had struck it with a hammer? It would have been a mess. So what we have is the misconceptions were started from the fact that because of the press of the crowd that day, not one member of the press saw the Golden Spike ceremony. Many of them, in fact, had written their eyewitness account days before on the way to Promontory Summit. And all they knew was that there was a place on the map called Promontory Point and that Leland Stanford was bringing a Golden Spike. And so they wrote in their eyewitness stories that Leland Stanford drove a Golden Spike at Promontory Point. And from there, school kids today in the most modern textbooks read that they drove a Golden Spike at Promontory Point.
Of Laurelwood has been placed in its ceremonial position by the construction superintendents of the two railroads. Edgar Mills, a wealthy banker from Sacramento, and a friend of the Central Pacific Railroad, steps forward and signals for silence. So the nation, as well as the spectators gathered here, await as the drama of men's hopes, dreams, and prayers begins to unfold on this 10th day of May, 1869. And you are here.
We are met today to commemorate the completion of a project which is a remarkable example of the vision and the determination and the labor of thousands of men in the Union, which this day shall be consummated forever. We are assembled to link the ends of the earth to complete a new, shorter route between the Europe and the Orient, and to join the raw riches of the American West with the finished products of the industrial East. We are also met today with mixed emotions, with joy that in the combined effort and common cause, the brains, the sweat, the muscle of thousands of men have joined together now to this great adventure under the guidance of Almighty God. But it is with profound sorrow we remember and pay homage to the hundreds of men who in the construction of the Pacific Railroad gave their lives that you and I might be here at this moment and share with one another this sacred occasion. It is noteworthy that the Pacific Railroad we are honored to acknowledge at this time include a number of Pacific Railroad officials in addition to those taking part in the ceremony. We are pleased to have reporters from some of America's greatest newspapers. Of utmost importance, however, is our telegrapher, who is keeping the entire nation informed. Thank you, Dr. I don't fully understand, but nonetheless, a wonderful feat. And thank you. Very gently now. Thank you, Governor. It is my pleasure at this time. Two other spikes of precious metal. Silver one from the state of Nevada, presented by Mr. F.A. Triddle. A United States Railroad Commissioner and candidate for the governor of this great new state. A spike of iron, silver, and gold, presented by the Honorable Ensign P.K. Zephyr. The new appointed governor of the territory of Arizona, who kindly delayed his journey to his new headquarters to make this visit as a representative of his new territory. Both spikes will be placed by Vice President Thomas C. Durant of the Union Pacific Railroad, who will place them in pre-drilled holes in this last floral die. Mr. Triddle, you will. And now, friends, it is not only my duty, but my honor and privilege to present a man of vision, a man of courage, a humanitarian, and one who is highly esteemed by those of us who are privileged enough to call him our friend. He is a Californian whose far-sightedness has contributed.
Thank you, Governor.
The railroad accepts with pride and satisfaction these golden and silver tokens of your appreciation of the importance of our enterprise to the material interest of the sections which you represent on this occasion. the material interest.
Very gently now.
Very carefully. We don't want to hit them there.
There you go.
Your turn.
President.
Very good. There, gentlemen.
He missed it. I missed it.
Looks like I'll have to
Dr. Durant.
Perhaps Mr. Durant should have a swing now.
Yes. Was that real? Okay, GC, you finish the driving then.
Will somebody who can drive a spike come in to finish the driving? How about you?
Oh, there's a railroad man.
Be able to do it now.
Gotta get this wire off of here.
This time.
Take it out.
Don't twist it.
Not just
There we're
rocking off.
Yay!
D-O-M-E, done!
And now let's give 3 cheers to the Central Pacific Railroad. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, 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 hip.
And now 3 cheers for the Union Pacific Railroad. Hip, hip!